Well, hello there, peculiars. I have a friend with me here today. Yes, this is a reproduction Fowler bust. I actually did have access to one of the originals when I worked at the District Medical History Museum, but he's just going to be like holding court with us today, kind of hanging out in case we need him for illustrative purposes. So he's here with us tonight because we are here for our un-Valentine's Day, our not a Valentine's Day party, to celebrate phrenology and chocolate and wearing black and an organ of murder. And so Davey and I are both super excited to bring on board Courtney for Organ of Murder. There you are. I feel like we need a little like puff of smoke that happens when we bring you guys on.
I feel like we need some special effects for a night.
Yeah, we totally do. All right. Well, one of the first things I want to introduce, of course, is that because this is our un-Valentine's Day party, we wanted to have appropriate cocktail beverages and appropriate chocolate. So Thing, thank you. We are having a lovely goodbye Thing, a lovely wine, but it's not just wine, it's a wine cocktail. So those who participated in the show got a recipe, and it has it's red wine mixed with creme de cassis, and it's got a little cherry in it, and it's a lovely concoction. So let's see how many folks we've got. Some people saying hello, dig the hat. Well, thank you. And let's see, anyone out there doing the drink with me tonight? Because I know you have a little wine with you as well, Courtney. Do you not?
I have another cocktail.
Another cocktail?
I went for something that looks as bloody as I could get it without red wine or creme de cassis on hand.
Love it. Someone said they had to substitute Chambord for the creme de cassis, which is completely fair.
I mean, there are worse things, really.
That's true. Oh, Leanne has already spotted it. She's already spotted the squid chest decal.
Yes, I am in the spirit. I am feeling very peculiar tonight.
Yes, I'm very excited. Mine actually is supposed to look a little bit like a human heart. It's not exactly that, but I think we're gonna go there. Organ of murder rather than like a heart. I thought I'd wear like a heart, So, let's see. Penny's hot cocoa mix for the rim. That's right, because we rimmed ours with cocoa. And let's see, what else we didn't make it to the store. Red wine completely works in this situation. Plain red wine here. Jealous of the Fab Velvet. Thank you. This is me spelunking in thrift stores for the better part of my life. Nice. So that's always a lot of fun. We did end up having a name picked for this cocktail for us, and we are going with Sharon Roney's Three Reds. So this is now our Three Reds, and it is there to celebrate Courtney's book Organ of Murder, and also our un-Valentine's Day. Several other people saying they're sticking with wine. Lexi says she's making the cocktail right now, so she's like, I'm on it. Give me a minute. And it is a lot of fun. We do the cocktail. For those of you who might be new to the show, I don't know if we have any new folks. If you do, wave at us, and I'll lift your name to the spirits. Yes, Sharon, three reds. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to always have a sort of cocktail oriented theme, and we always try to do it around the book. But in this case, this came so close to the. We do have a new person. Hello, Anya. Hello, everybody, wave. We were coming so close to what is considered a holiday, Valentine's Day. But I've always had a bit of an issue with Valentine's Day personally. And one of my friends called it Wear Black and Eat Chocolate Day. And so in addition to wearing black, we are going to be picking winners for these wonderful chocolates. And we've given these away before. And what's wonderful about them, this comes from Brooklyn, it's handcrafted. They are the best chocolates I think I've ever eaten, but they are also vegan and nut-free. So they are safe for everyone. So you can win these today. There will be picking some winners out of a hat in a little bit. Sharon, who is our winner for the cocktail, will also get a squid pin. She will get a squid pin for that. So again, thank you, all of you who are new. Thank you, all of you who have come before. We are here to celebrate what you ought to celebrate around Valentine's Day, which of course is murder. And brains and phrenology and criminology. So line up your questions. Let's have at Courtney because there were so many things to ask.
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Leanne says that she verifies that the caramels are completely awesome.
I'm a little sad I don't have chocolate right now. Clearly I'm doing something wrong. It's in the other room though. It's out there.
So you have
after show chocolate, I think is what we'll go for.
So I happen to know that several of you had many questions about the book. And Susan, I'm actually, since it's not up here yet, I know you guys are typing. It takes a couple of minutes for them to get my way, but I did see Susan's question on Facebook where she basically said, why are there so many skulls in these prisons? And I, in all capital letters, which I think is fantastic. So, maybe we should start with the curious nature of murder, skulls, phrenology, and prisons. How did all of this? What are the intersections here? Why do we have a strange connection?
So many reasons for the strange connection, and the story doesn't even really begin with phrenology. Is the thing, like that long-term connection between prisons and capital punishment in particular, and basically procuring bodies for medicine and science goes back way back into history, right? So we have, going back to the early modern period, the 14th, 15th, 16th centuries, it used to be that the first bodies that were really used for dissection in medical schools, right, were the bodies of convicted criminals. In fact, starting in Italy, it was literally the law that the only bodies you could use were those of convicted criminals. And that was the foundation of various forms of dissection practices. So by the time you get to the 19th century, when phrenology is sort of having this heyday, it had already been really long established that, first of all, the bodies that you have, the bodies that are the most accessible, are going to be those of criminals. Like the prison is just this repository for stuff, right? For humans that you can use for experimentation. But there was also this really tight relationship between this idea that we cut open bad people for the public for fun because they are bad people, right? So sometimes it was even, especially in the United Kingdom, it was an explicit part of the sentence that a body would be dissected for the public. They did this, for example, I talk a little bit about Burke and Hare, the body snatchers, the ones who killed to sell bodies to the dissection theater, and that's in the book a little bit. And when Burke was hanged, they publicly dissected his body and his head, and then they handed the skull off to the phrenologists afterwards. So the phrenologists weren't doing anything too new. They were basically coming along this path that had already been really well trod. The interesting part is they're not just leaving it in the dissection hall, right? They're taking the pieces with them back to their homes, to their chronological cabinets, and you could also buy them, like the Fowlers, who are two of our really big phrenologists in the middle of the 19th century. You could buy a miniature cabinet from them, and most of the reproduction heads would have been those of criminals. So
that's fascinating.
It was a form of punishment. It was a form of fun. It was a part of medical education, and it has these really deep roots. And phrenology was just taking advantage of a set of relationships that were already very much in the public mind and were even seen as just, as right. Like, of course they're bad guys. We're going to hang them. And then afterwards, we're going to cut their head off and put it in on a shelf.
On a shelf. And there's a showmanship quality to it. And actually, so I'm starting to see some fun questions pop up. I see a couple from Leanne. While we're waiting for a few more of those to pop into the chat, we have Finger Guns and Lady Paws. They decided they would take a crack at phrenology themselves. So we're gonna watch them do that, and then we're gonna come back and start going through these questions in order, because there's tons and tons of questions for you, Courtney. But first, Finger Guns.
Hello everyone, I'm Finger Guns.
And I'm Lady Paws.
We're here today to take a look at Lady Paws' head. Yes, because see, we're looking a little bit about phrenology, and I want to see what's going on with the bumps on this man's head.
Are you going to tell my future?
Well, no, it's not about fortune telling. Though, in fact, because in the bumps on the head and the physiognomy,
basically the way that you looked,
ended up being deeply influenced by race and gender and culture, and then ultimately affecting the criminal justice system. It could affect your future, but it didn't necessarily tell your fortune. So I'm just going to take a look. For instance, right here it says this is moral and religious sentiments. So, let's see if you have some moral and religious sentiment.
Well, will I be rich?
That's that fortune telling again. But here, over here it says there's some acquisitiveness over here, and I think that means you want to acquire stuff. Let's see. Do you have a little bump or a ridge over there?
I think it's just hair.
It might just be hair. You do have quite a lot of that. It's very lovely, though. So anyway, Courtney Thompson is going to be here to tell us about this very process, and her book is called An Organ of Murder.
Murder?
Murder.
Murder with pipes?
Not that kind of organ.
Like on the Oregon Trail?
That's the Oregon Trail.
Oh.
Yeah. Organ, in this sense, means your brain.
What is my fortune?
We covered this.
Oh, that's right. I'm not going to get rich.
They were doing their best, you know.
I was very impressed. I think, that was a great starting point overview. Well done to Finger Guns. Lady Paws is still working on it, I can see.
He's getting there. He's getting there. But about the bumps, Leanne has a really interesting question. So our number one question here tonight is, why did the diagnostic emphasis get put on convex features? Like, why not divots or dips?
Well, this is a great question, Leanne, in part because oh boy. Oh man. See, I get very excited and then I can't make words. I can't word good. So the thing is, the idea of phrenology being all about bumps, or called bumpology, was often sort of a thing that critics threw at it to sort of make it look less serious. Because what phrenology was at its heart was cerebral localization. That was the idea. But we can't cut into a brain in the middle of the 19th century while the person is still alive. They did a lot of that after people were dead, of course. So the skull is used to sort of approximate the interior. And they did this in all sorts of ways. You have racial scientists trying to figure out what the size and shape of the brain means about racial characteristics. You have sexual scientists thinking about what it means about sex and gender. And then what phrenologists were really trying to do is essentially to localize different parts of different qualities of mind or qualities of character or personality, right? So some things that we would think about having to do with intelligence, some things that we would think of as being more sensory, as well as things like moral sentiments. But the trick was, it was never just about bumps. It was actually also about those depressions, because the idea wasn't that you would find one specific bump. The idea was that you would pay attention to how they all sort of worked as a system. So it wasn't enough that you had big destructiveness, for example. You also had to have that planed out part of your brain. So it was sort of about the brain as a system, as a dynamic system, where it's about that balance. Do you have the right balance between the good bumps and the bad? Like, maybe it's okay if you have an organ of murder, as long as you also have the organ of veneration, which means that you respect God and you're not going to act on it, right? So it was about bumps and dips, but the phrenologists would say it was never really about bumps at all. It was about the overall shape and thinking about it all together. In pop culture, though, it does get really reduced down to things like an organ of murder, and I think for good reason, because people really want to be able to identify people with these kinds of characteristics, to simplify it. Yeah.
Well, don't we? I mean, ivermectin, like it's still happening.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Anya asks, how would you relate 19th century phrenology to 20th century eugenics?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I mean, first of all, we have eugenics is coming, is developing in the 1880s, 1890s, at the same time as phrenology is still hanging around, right? In fact, there are still active phrenological societies until the 1930s, 1940s. There are still people teaching and studying phrenology at the same time as eugenics is getting up and off the ground. So there actually was some overlap between these sciences existing and becoming popular. And there are some real commonalities, especially phrenology had a lot to say about heredity, for example, about basically how certain characteristics run in families, which is something that eugenicists are very concerned with. And there's
Right.
also a lot of interesting connective tissue, like somebody like Cesare Lombroso, who I talk a little bit in the book. He's the Italian criminologist. He wasn't a eugenicist per se. I mean, I think his work is super eugenicsy, but his ideas of atavism, degeneration, of the born criminal were certainly incorporated into eugenics thinking. And so too, and I mean, Lombroso was influenced by phrenology, or they were overlapping. I mean, the real end, the real moral of the whole story was in the 19th century, there was just this real obsession with various kinds of undesirable groups. And there's an attempt to take these groups that were previously seen as socially undesirable, whether we're talking about people with intellectual disabilities or mentally ill folks or criminals or paupers or people with various addictions, basically taking all of these groups that used to be social issues and still were, but turning them into medical issues. And that's where you really get the medical or scientific issues. And I think that's where you really see the connective tissue. I don't think it's surprising that phrenology fades from the scene just as another science, however we want to define it, eugenics, comes along and basically looks at the same set of problematic people and says, we can do something about this.
Right. And Kathleen Richardson, she's like, of course, there's still people, and we're, criminals are humans with parents and lives and children in many cases. That's modern thinking. But of course, we see that kind of that attitude hasn't. I'd love to say it's gone away, but I'm in the process of writing a book about the interwar period in Berlin, and I don't feel like I'm writing history. Sometimes I feel like I'm writing what happened last week. So it can be.
I love that Anya brought up the eugenics example, because I think comparing phrenology and eugenics together is so useful, in part because phrenology is a lot easier to make funny, right? Like it's more of a joke. People don't think eugenics is a joke, right?
No.
But
they asked a question about that, about its use in minstrel shows, about
Oh yeah. Let me come back to that a second, but I want to address the joke part, because I think there are actually two different questions, really. So it's really easy to make something like phrenology funny in a way that it's not easy to make eugenics funny, and yet, right? And yet, both of them sort of get tarred with this term pseudoscience, which I don't like using. I don't use it in my book. I can go on at length about why I don't use it. But the thing is, when these sciences, and I'm using science for a reason, when these sciences premiered, so to speak, they were taken super seriously, and they were promoted by people at the top of the scientific ladder, by clergymen, by physicians, by doctors, by professors at places like Harvard and Yale. Like, these were not marginal practices or science, either phrenology or eugenics. And both of them still have these echoes into the present day. With eugenics, it's really sort of, honestly, sadly, very easy to look around and say, this discourse or this idea or how we treat this group of people, that's eugenics.
Do not resuscitate. Literally, situation. Autistic and people with Down syndrome, if they do not resuscitate on their
a lot of the discourse about disability during the COVID age has certainly been heavily eugenic in tone. And the point that I want to make, and why I like to make this comparison to eugenics, is I don't think phrenology is a laughing matter either, right? And I think that we're also still using a lot of these ideas in the present in similarly problematic ways that we just don't interrogate. And as for the other side of the question of Leanne's question about the about minstrelsy, that's a great question. And I will say that other scholars far smarter than I have written a lot more about it. So I'd really recommend that you look up the work of Britt Russert in particular, and Michael Sappel's written a bit about it. But yeah, phrenology became a regular feature in minstrel shows in the last decades of the 19th century, which was used on the one hand to make fun of phrenology, but it was also used as a way to basically make fun of the pretensions or the assumed pretensions of emancipated Black Americans to become scientists and to pursue higher education. So it was this real double-edged sword of they were mocking the science, but they were also using it to mock the potential for people of African descent to be scientists in their own right. So there's a lot there.
There's a lot going on. Actually, Britton had asked, what inspired your research on the subject? And I feel like we're getting close to it. So I thought maybe we should ask that question next. I'm asking the questions a little bit out of order as we talk.
That's totally fine. I mean, so this book started as a dissertation, which I mean, so many of our books do. And I have to be really honest, I never wanted to write about phrenology. I thought I mean, hasn't it been written? Like, what new is there to say about it? Originally, I really wanted to write something about asylums and mental illness in the 19th century. I went to Paris for a summer. It was a great summer, but I didn't find anything in the archives. And what I realized is I was really interested in minds and brains in the 19th century. And once you start scratching the surface of anything having to do with minds and brains, phrenology is right there. It's right under the surface of all of the discourse in the 19th century. If you're talking about skulls, brains, minds, it's all there. But I still felt like there wasn't anything new or exciting. And so the more that I read, the more I realized, oh my gosh, like every single one of them, like they're obsessed with murderers. They're writing about criminals all the time. It's just murder this, murder that, criminal this, criminal that. And as a mentor of mine when I was a grad student asked me once, well, what are the stakes? And thinking about what the stakes were and why the murderer, why the criminal? What does this mean for American society? What does this mean for science or medicine? What does this mean for us now? Oh yeah, AI algorithm. I can go on at length about the new phrenology, which
AI face recognition, and
we keep reinventing phrenology with AI facial recognition, and it makes me so tired. Like, I really want to stop thinking about phrenology, guys. Like, don't keep doing it again and again. Everybody then like tags me on Twitter, and then I have to have an opinion about it, and I'm just so tired.
Well, I think I wrote a book about death and dying, and I hate to tell you how important, how interesting that makes you to people during the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. I missed a couple of these are not questions but comments. No, actually, my Fowler bust isn't a bank, but I have seen some that are banks.
I have the bank one. I got it as a gift a few years ago. Yeah,
that's great. Leanne asked if Fingerpaws has a brain. I believe so. I think it's under there, under that lovely luscious hair of his. Leanne had asked about Major Mitchell because it's such a sad story, and I wondered if you could elaborate about that.
Yeah. So the Major Mitchell story is, it's not one I discovered. Other people have written about it, but I think it really does encapsulate a lot of the stakes, right, in this story. So the case of Major Mitchell was a 9-year-old boy who in 1834 in Maine was accused and put on trial for the maiming of another little boy, a 7-year-old by the name of David Crawford. And allegedly, or I guess he was convicted, so a spoiler alert, I guess, sorry. He attacked the other child and actually cut out one of his testicles with a piece of tin. And for this, he was put on trial for maiming. And at the time, living in the same town in Maine was a man by the name of John Neal, who was a lawyer. If you know anything about early American literature, he was also a really well-published fiction writer of the time, and he was obsessed with phrenology. And he decided he would take this case on, not because he was impressed with Major Mitchell. In fact, he called the boy the little monster and really basically thought he should go to jail, but because he thought it would be this great test case for phrenology. So the case goes to trial, and Neal brings to the stand 3 different physicians, and he has them testify using phrenological terms and referring to phrenologists, especially because, so he claimed, Mitchell had received an injury as a child to the side of his head, right in the same area as the organ of murder, the organ of destructiveness, which if everybody wants to test their bump right now, it's right here over your ears. That is our organ of destructiveness. Although remember, you have to keep that in mind with everything else going on. So he brings this case to trial in 1834, and it is the first ever case where phrenology is brought into a court of law, or at least the first case I have been able to identify. Maybe somebody else will find one day. And this causes like a big stir in the within the courtroom. There's an argument between him and the other lawyer. There's an argument with the judge. Eventually, the judge does throw out the phrenological and basically is like, knock it off, no more phrenology. The 9-year-old child is found to be guilty and is sent for 9 years of hard labor.
Jeez.
I know. I mean, it was the 1830s in Maine. I guess that's how they do.
I put up Anya's comment here about there's certainly contemporary echoes, right, with the racialized jury outcomes and wow.
Oh yes, yeah, and we can talk about that too. But
layers.
Yeah, no, and so the thing about the Mitchell case, though, that's so interesting is, first of all, Neal thought it was great. Like Neal he was like, yeah, good job me, I did great, because he didn't care about Mitchell. He just wanted a test case that he could use to basically say, we need to use phrenology as medical jurisprudence. And at that time in American history, both medicine and the law were in kind of uncertain standing because there's this anti-elitist attitude among Jacksonian America. It was very pro-populism, right? So both medicine and law were like both of these fields in the 1830s were like, phrenology is this new hot thing. Maybe we can borrow some of that shine to bring a little bit of, clout to what we're doing. And so over the next 2 decades, there's a whole bunch of cases where phrenologists are brought onto the stand, lawyers use it, judges use it, lawyers are writing in journals, in legal journals, physicians are writing in medical journals, and they're all like, man, the potential for this to be used, especially in cases of potential criminal insanity. To the extent that one of the key sort of theorists of criminal insanity, this guy, Isaac Ray, who is the guy who advised Neil in how to bring a phrenological defense in the Mitchell case, writes this book, and he's like, okay, we're going to use phrenology, but we're not going to say it's phrenology, but we're using phrenology. And that case, that material ends up getting cited in the M'Naughton case, which some of you might be familiar with. It's a British case that basically established the principle of the criminal insanity defense in Britain, which then gets carried over to the United States. So in a lot of ways, the way that we think about criminal insanity today owes it all to poor Major Mitchell and to phrenology.
And yet, it was popular. Judy Jackson was mentioning that Lincoln and Walt Whitman both had readings, and that she was asking about used in court, which we've just covered. But Susan Ballinger said Mark Twain had a reading as well. And he, of course, didn't take his very seriously, but all the same, he still went and had it done, right? So
and he went back and he wrote fiction stories about it. Yeah, so Whitman took it fairly seriously. There's, I think Lucretia Mott had her head read. There's actually, if you look at a lot of 19th century thinkers, a lot of them have phrenological charts in their collections, which is fascinating. But you have to keep in mind, if you're a paying client, you're not going to want to hear you have a bad organ.
No,
right?
Of course not, right?
It doesn't make money. And this was big money too.
She's convinced that you now need to write another book so you can come back.
I'm always happy to come back. Everything else I work on is even more depressing. Like I'm writing something on pregnant children right now. And if you want to talk depressing, I don't think it gets worse than that, but happy to always come back.
About the interwar period and things being burned down by Nazis.
No, history is depressing.
Sometimes. Well, actually, the most alarming thing about my book that I'm researching right now is I'm like, oh, I wish this was history. But let's see, anti-trans sentiment, the rise of fascism. I don't know. But So Judy was also asking, does that organ correspond to the frontal lobes, which indeed, when damaged, has led to weird behavior? Did they get any of it right?
I mean, that's the question, right? I mean, I think, there's a few different ways I can answer this. So first of all, when cerebral localization does come around in the 1860s, a lot of phrenologists are like, we were saying that, we said that first. And they get really, on the one hand, they're like, every neurologist, they're like, these are now phrenologists. We have decided, we own them, they are ours. And they're really jealous about the attention that the new neurology gets when they're like, we've been saying this for decades, right? So there's a real sort of animus there, a real anxiety about priority. I think there's also, when you're talking about the frontal lobe, the case that everybody always thinks about, of course, is the case of Phineas Gage,
right?
Which, this is the railway worker who gets the spike through his head, and it's early evidence for the relationship of the frontal lobe with aggression. And the thing is, it's a great case. It is absolutely useful for thinking about the localization of different kinds of behavior in the head based on brain injury. But the Major Mitchell case, which basically made the same case, was about 15 years before that. And there was another major case, the case of John Haggerty, that I talk about in the book, that's also very similar and also predates Gage. So I don't want to say the phrenologists were right, because I think their rightness is problematic, to say the least. But I do think there's some interesting things. I think they were on certain tracks that ended up being useful. And that did end up, the idea of cerebral localization is one that we still take very seriously as a hallmark of neurology. They just were in a very different sort of direction about it. But the other thing that's interesting to me, and I talk about this in the conclusion a bit, is that it's sort of a chicken or an egg thing, right? So today, if you look at, there's a whole bunch of research using things like facial width to height ratio. Somebody mentioned AI imaging, things like this.
BMI, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. Where we associate certain kinds of qualities, good and bad, with people's face and head shapes. And this is heavily racialized and gendered, as you can imagine. But there's a whole set of studies that I've been able to find, and they happen every 6 months. There's another one. So people are always tagging me in them. But about basically people with wide faces are dangerous and bad and aggressive, and people with narrow faces are well behaved and good. And that's the same conclusion that our 19th century, I'm going to find the picture now and hold it up, but that's the same conclusion that they reached, that the phrenologists reached. So the open question really isn't whether or not they were right, but if they essentially created a reality in which this is how we think about what good and bad people look like. And for those of you with kids in particular, if you ever watch cartoons, what does a bad guy look like? What does a good guy look like? Right? And some of this is physiognomy, but phrenology is also,
just so you know.
I mean, I don't know what I look like.
I'm long and skinny. I've got really long fingers.
No, but you have a narrow head, so you can't be that bad, right? So I do wonder sometimes. When I was a grad student, I went much harder in this direction of phrenology created these assumptions. And now I'm like, I think it's more complicated than that. But there is something really fascinating about how certain ideas about what looks like a dangerous person have persisted in our culture in ways that are silly, like cartoons, and in ways that are very serious, like racial profiling and that have real consequences for real people. So Leanna's saying, didn't wide-faced cartoon characters represent evil? And that's basically what phrenologists would have said too, and physiognomists and facial width to height ratio people working in the last 10 years. So I don't know.
It's fascinating stuff. We have room for lots more questions, but we're going to take a brief intermission to have one of our live music, one of our musical numbers. So we are about to cue up Charming Disaster. If you don't know who Charming Disaster is, they are a goth punk folk duo of the macabre and of science, and they read tarot during their shows. So they're going to do a song for us, but they are also doing a Peculiar Book Club concert, and that is February 17th. And that is sort of our follow-up to Valentine's Day event. It is free to those of you who have subscriptions, and to those of you who don't, it is not free, but we're running a sale right now where if you use promo code FEBU, so like February kind of, but without the R, you can get the tickets for 20% off. So join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are also going to be picking a winner for the squid. Remember, Julius sees her, who is our mascot. We have a squid plushie that we're giving away. So if you guys would like to join us, there are tickets available on our website. Please do. It's going to be a lot of fun. So now, without further ado, Charming Disaster.
Oh, hello.
We're Charming Disaster.
And we're so glad to be here with you on the Peculiar Book Club.
Ready?
We live in a black. We eat when we can. Pulled in by your heart. Pumping in the dark. We eat when we can, pulled in by your heart, pumping in the dark. Gonna make you mine. Can't help what we hunger for, with appetites of carnivore. Teeth and talons, horns and fur. We are grotesque and powerful. Monsters, what we want, unspeakable. Your body, bloody, visceral. Don't we belong here in this world? Gonna make you mine. Gonna make you mine. Gonna make you mine. Gonna make you mine.
Yay! If you guys have not seen them in concert, I have to tell you, it is something. I've seen them live. They do, in fact, do a tarot reading through the course of the show. It's fantastic. I've taken off my hat. You know what that means? That means I have to pick names of winners who are inside my hat. So we have another pin. So one person gets one of our lovely squid pins, which I meant to bring up here to show you, but instead I'm just going to go like this. And you can imagine. But we have this lovely squid pins, and Sharon Roney, she won one for the name of the cocktail, but we also have Alexis. Alexis, you also win a pin. You will also get to sport our lovely squid on whatever article of clothing you wish. And we have our first of the chocolate giveaways. I've got 3 chocolates, 3 of these lovely little packs to give away. Yes. And our very first winner tonight is Kathleen Richardson. Kathleen Richardson, you are going to get some chocolate. So we'll pick a few more winners in a little bit, but I gotta put my hat back on, because otherwise, how will the show go on, right? Yes, hooray, yay. I see Lexi's like, yes. The last time somebody won a pin, they made such a loud noise they frightened their dog, as I recall. It happens. So I feel like I may have, and Kathleen's excited too. Woo! I feel like I missed a question earlier on, which I'm trying to we were talking about Nazi Germany, yes, about head and face shape, and about, spreading actually using that to spread racial tension of various sorts, and of course, ultimately put that to nefarious use.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I don't talk about the Nazis in my book, but it's definitely true that ideas about atavism, ideas, especially physiognomic concepts about facial shapes and characteristics, were instrumental to the Nazis' race-making project, and that's something that a lot of scholars have written about. And you can go read what they have to say, because they have much smarter things to say than I do. But like a lot of the anti-Semitic ideas that were integral to the Nazis' race-making project were developed in the 19th century, or in some cases earlier. I mean, physiognomy as a practice, and physiognomy, for those of you who might not be familiar, is the practice of reading facial structures. So not the skull, perhaps, but the nose, the eyes, maybe ears, but certainly noses, which very anti-Semitic.
I have a very crooked, very long, large. I mean, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, so
I have a Coraline crooked nose going on.
I always want to I'm always so tempted to try to read myself, but I don't. Should I take it seriously? But like, physiognomy is something that dates all the way back to the ancient world. I mean, Aristotle wrote physiognomic texts,
right.
But physiognomy basically becomes seen as something kind of like fortune telling by the time we get to the 18th century or so, and then it's reinvigorated by this Swiss minister, actually, the name of Johann Lavater. And then what happens in the 19th century is physiognomy is still sort of floating around. There's some great books on this, including one by my very good friend Sharona Pearl has written a really great book about physiognomy. And then phrenology is around too. So you've got the face and you've got the skull. So by the end of the century and by the beginning of the 20th century, you've got a mashup of these two ideas that basically give you a way to map out exactly what certain kinds of people look like, really look like. And I've actually written a little bit about how this came to shape things like police identification systems in the 20th century. That's a fun little essay, a total side project, but if anyone's curious about that one, I think it is actually open access on Endeavor. So you can always go read about how physiognomy made modern day police surveillance, if that's...
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, it honestly doesn't surprise me. I think about the fact that, like, I have a disability technically, but people tell me things like, well, you don't look disabled. What does that mean? Like, what does disability look like exactly to you? What does autism look like? Or what are the things, what does it look like? And, but it's because that's what we do. We've attached a lot of visual signifiers to all sorts of things. And, what does a criminal look like? What does a murderer look like?
Yes. And I mean, I think the thing is, there's a reason why physiognomy or phrenology or eugenics, right, are hit in the way that they do and persist in the way that they do. And I think it actually comes down to a very human and honestly a very sympathetic starting point, which is that quite simply, we are very scared creatures, right? Like human beings, like we don't know who we can trust in the world. Right. And so you see, I think, especially this anxiety about strangers in the 19th century, whether it's the dangerous classes or the city of strangers, as Europe and America are industrializing and urbanizing. And rather than, you used to live in a town of 100 people and you knew everybody and exactly who they looked like. Now you're surrounded by hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, and they don't all look like you, and you can't identify them, and you don't know who you can trust or not. And physiognomy and phrenology, as well as eugenics and some other kinds of practices, I think all speak to that central human set of anxieties and fears, which really comes down to, on the one hand, using these kinds of practices to know yourself, right? Who am I?
Right.
That's why we like fortune telling and astrology and MBTI and those Dungeons and Dragons, like neutral good charts. And what's
you in?
Right? What Hogwarts house you're? I have opinions about that too, obviously. But like we want to sort ourselves. We want to know who we are, but that's only half the story, right? The sort of uses of these projects for self-help or self-knowledge. On the other hand, we really want to know who other people are. And I think that comes from a deep place of fear that I find to be, I mean, I certainly am not an apologist for any of these sciences. I once got asked at a conference, like, oh, so you believe in phrenology? And I was like, no, but it was, but it was a science. So it's not that I believe in phrenology. It's that I think we need to take it seriously.
Right.
But all of that is to say that I am sympathetic to the anxieties that underlie these projects. Well, even if sometimes they're coming from terrible, terrible places.
Right. Well, we had Anthro Girl here was saying we want everything to be readily identifiable, and that Jim Clements talks about how we should get rid of the term predator because it implies that we'll be able to recognize that, like tiger. Like that's a tiger, but you can't do that with with people. You can't do that with humans. Anya asked, and I think that you were sort of getting there anyway, so maybe we could sort of flesh this out. Do tell us. You said you have reasons for using science instead of pseudoscience. What are those reasons, and why is that important?
Oh, I can go on for like an hour about this. There's actually, I've written at least one screed that's available for free online if anybody wants to read my deep feelings and emotions about this. But it really comes down to this. I think pseudoscience is ultimately a term that we use to dismiss practices that occurred in the past that we do not take seriously anymore. And as a starting point, okay, sure, that seems fine, right? Why not?
Sure, right.
The problem with that is pseudoscience seems to suggest two things. First of all, the pseudo part, which I'll come back to. But there's also this very dismissive and very presentist piece of it, right? So when we call something in the past a pseudoscience, we're saying we know better now and we're better now. And as a historian of science and medicine, I'm really against that kind of presentist assumption that we are always better now and we know more now, because that's not a generous way to think about people in the past to begin with. But also it's very limiting, because it
Sure.
forces you to go in with a very judgmental and presentist and superior point of view when you're trying to evaluate something. And the other piece of this is the pseudo part, in that I would say it wasn't pseudo. It was phrenology was a scientific set of theories and practices that were crafted originally by credentialed scientists with degrees based on anatomical and physiological research, and was initially promoted primarily by other physicians and scientists. So too was eugenics. So to call those practices pseudo, you would have to say that then the medicine of that time was pseudo, and the physiology of the time was pseudo,
Right.
and the statistics of that, in Galton's case, right, statistics was pseudo. And we're not willing to say any of those things were pseudo. I think we have to take really, really seriously the circumstances in which these practices developed. And this is why we can't be too, snooty about the present day, the way that they're still shaping our daily lives.
Yeah, I think that seems like
Yeah.
the big one right there.
Yeah.
Is that if you say it's pseudoscience, it's a little bit easy to go, I don't have to look. It's way back there, and I don't have
It's
to
so
think about
easy
it.
to dismiss. And the thing is, so like last year, the
Like
example I
racism.
gave you, no, and the instant you think it's done and over, it makes it so much easier for it to perpetuate. And that's what worries me, right? So when we do, the example I always use with students in class when we're talking about eugenics is I say to them, have you ever heard someone in your family, maybe your mom, maybe a relative, somebody gets pregnant and somebody says something along the lines of, somebody like that shouldn't be having kids, or can they really afford another child, right? Or you shouldn't have kids you can't afford. Those are very eugenic arguments and statements. And pretty much every student I have has heard somebody say basically that, or they themselves have thought or said that. And that's how deeply ingrained these ideas are. And I think that a lot of phrenological concepts are also pretty deeply ingrained, but they're in a subtle way where it's the language that we use and the images that we circulate in culture that tell us something about which people are people and which people are. There was a great question somebody asked, I think it was the question about a predator. To go back to Anthro Girl's point, if you can recognize the predator, if you call somebody a predator, then that makes them something other. Right? And that means that you're putting them in a box and you can dismiss them. And I actually think that calling it pseudoscience does the same thing. It says, oh, we're not like that. We're better than that. And we'll never do that again. We're doing that right now. Right? With eugenics, absolutely. And I would say with phrenology as well. And what's really ironic, I think, is that some of these sciences were actually a lot more, to go back again to that predator question, which I just love, that comment. A lot of phrenologists were actually really utopian in the 19th century. They thought, yes, we can identify criminal minds, but that was with the goal of rehabilitating them.
Yeah.
So the idea
there was a big training manual that used to come with it. The Fowler bust was hilarious because they traveled America and they had this giant book, which I've seen. I mean, it's like a doorstop, and it was like how to fix what you find out that you don't have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they really thought it was sort of self-help. I mean, something very hopeful about it. And I do think that gets lost, and that wasn't the case with physiognomy. So I think phrenology has a much greater sense of.
And I actually think this is one of the things that distinguishes it from like Lombroso's theory of the born criminal, or eugenics for that matter. Both eugenics and Lombroso's theories were very much this idea, this pessimistic vision of human nature, that identity categories were fixed, that there was such a thing as a born criminal. Whereas phrenologists 50 years earlier would have said, okay, your organs are a little out of whack, but we can teach you how to cultivate the ones that need cultivating and how to resist the other urges.
For a prize.
I mean, very self-helpy, right?
Yeah,
but
it really was.
The thing that's so interesting is a lot of the ideas that still have persisted into the present with all these sciences of the 19th century are these notions of people as immutable types. That is very concerning. If that's the thing we've kept, that's not the spirit of phrenology.
No. That's
again, I'm not pro phrenology. I just want us to.
We do have one pro phrenologist here today, though. We have an animal phrenologist.
Oh boy.
A pet phrenologist. Davey, would you like to introduce our pet phrenologist?
Of course, yes. And I just want to say I'm wearing my black Met t-shirt to get in the spirit of Valentine's Day.
On Valentine's Day, that's right. Meh.
Yes, this is Germany's leading canine phrenologist. So he sent in a special video to tell us all about the specialized field of canine phrenology.
Yes, very important.
Hello, peculiars. I am Werner von Germany, Germany's leading canine phrenologist. This puppy right here, I can show you all the regions of his brain that let you know what this doggy is all about. This region right here behind the ear, this region loves affection, loves belly scratches, tummy rubs, scratches behind the ear. This doggy cannot get enough of them. Look at how happy it makes the doggy. Now this region right here, this region measures, shows that the doggy is not that great about listening when he's outside. He gets very distracted by smells and sounds. Now, if the doggy will come back up, you can see right here down the middle of the brain is the mouth-eye coordination of the dog. This doggy is very good. Oh, see how affectionate the doggy is? This doggy is very good at catching things in his mouth. He'll catch anything in his mouth. Catch. Oh, good boy. Good boy. This is a very important region of the dog brain. This is the, heads up. This is the harmonic region. Right down here under the ear is the harmonic region of the brain. This lets the doggy actually sing songs with me. The doggy will sing along with me. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions. Oh, now there is something you have to worry about. Right here at the back. Look at the size of the destructiveness. This doggy can chew. This doggy would chew the legs off a table if we let them. So there you go, peculiars. There is your lesson in canine phrenology.
So yeah,
I love that.
I have to thank my best friend in the world, my dog Kenobi, for pitching in for the video. And yeah, singing. It's unbelievable. You should hear him. He loves Sarah Bareilles, loves some Elton John, some Queen. Anybody who can really belt. He really likes belting out those high notes.
That is hilarious. Oh my god.
And he's part Vizsla, so that's where the howling comes from. So something tells me I'll come up with other reasons to have Kenobi in videos. Although as you can see, he's not too good at staying on his mark.
No.
If I had known dogs were invited, I would have grabbed mine and forced her to participate, which she would have hated, for the record. But things we do.
Pet friendly. We're very pet friendly here. Everyone's very excited about your dog, Davey.
Oh yes, he's the best. He's the absolute best. And I snuck a Star Wars name. I didn't sneak a Star Wars name past my wife. She was all in for it. So yeah, he's got his own TV show coming out soon. I mean, it's perfect. All right. So Brandy, do you think we should continue with the un-Valentine's Day theme?
I think we should. I'm going to pick a new winner, and then I think it's time to go right into that quiz.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's see here. All right. For yet another very fine chocolates. Some of you have had these, and I like ate my weight in these. I bought extra because I had to test them. They're so good. Okay, next winner is Carol Cook. Carol Cook, are you with us today? You are also a winner of some chocolates. All right, Davey.
All right. Well, first I have to let Leanna in here because she reposted her question. You wrote the phase I'm going to let you say it. You know what?
Oh, God.
I'm tapping out. Can you say it once fast?
I'm not going to lie. There is a part of me that deeply likes alliteration, which some of you can probably tell from the book. Oh boy, I did this to myself, so I can't. It's that meme you played yourself.
You do?
That's me right now. Peripatetic and prolific popularizers of phrenology. 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 Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Things are just going to get more challenging from here. So,
God.
to stick with the un-Valentine's Day theme, I thought it would be appropriate to do a quiz about other things that happened on February 14th. St. Valentine's, yes, he wrote his letter on February 14th and signed it from your Valentine, but other things have happened on this day. So let's take a look, and we're going to quiz you about some of these things. So we would not be able to have the Peculiar Book Club without this popular website being registered on February 14th of 2005. Was it A, Twitter, B, Facebook, or C, YouTube? And the Peculiars will help you out in the chat, although they are slightly
Is this
behind
for
us.
me? Oh, it's
This
for
is
me.
for you. Oh yeah. We quiz our
Oh,
authors.
okay. All right. I have a suspicion. So,
Let's
and
see
this. Wait, what should I just guess, or should I?
You can.
I mean,
Let's see. I'm waiting for the Peculiars. Usually we get A's, B's, C's. They
I mean, I think they don't want to help me. Is
Oh,
what
there we
is
go.
what's going on? Okay. All right. I'm seeing. Okay, you guys are not where I thought we were going to go here. So, because I know. Okay, so this is me dating myself in a very particular way, but when I was a senior in high school, that is when Facebook came out and became a thing, and that was 2005. So I'm going to go with B for Facebook.
The answer is C.
Oh,
YouTube. Of
gosh,
course, we cannot have
okay.
the Peculiar Book Club if it
I
wasn't
had
for
a
YouTube.
logic there, though. I want credit for having
I'll tell
some
you,
logic to
I was a
that.
freshman at The Ohio State University
Oh,
when we
well.
got the Facebook.
Oh, yes, it was
Facebook.
the Facebook originally. I do
And it was
remember that.
a big deal. I mean, my friends at other universities who didn't have it, oh, it was a big deal. All right.
I actually, yeah, okay, all right. So more questions. All right, I'm going to hoard up step 5 myself.
I
Then I'm ready.
I'm older than you guys, and I don't like.
Question number 2. This organization was founded on February 14th of 1920. We're skipping back in time here, and is a nonpartisan organization working to protect and expand voting rights and defend democracy. That is their motto on their website currently today.
Okay.
But they were founded on February 14th of 1920. Was it A, the League of Women Voters, B, the American Civil Liberties Union, or C, Fair Fight Action?
Okay. I'm gonna. Ooh.
I know this is challenging.
It can't be A. I don't think it can be A, because I'm pretty sure the league. No, maybe it is A actually, because that would make more sense if they were founded after.
We're seeing a lot of B's and A's.
I am
here.
seeing a lot of B's, and I feel like B is the right answer.
The ACLU. All right. The answer is it's the League of Women Voters.
You guys, I'm gonna lose my history PhD at this rate. Like, this is just embarrassing. This is bad. And you guys have, this time it was your fault. This one is on you.
The Peculiars did lead you astray on that one.
You did bad. Bad job, all of you. Bad.
All right. Famed inventor Alexander Graham Bell, and this is your last question, officially applied for the patent for this invention on February 14th, 1876. We're moving even further back. Was it A, the metal detector, B, the photophone, or C, the classic telephone?
Oh, I don't like this one, because I want to say telephone, but it's probably not going to be telephone, right? Because I want to say telephone.
Peculiars, do you know your February 14th history?
Peculiars, help me out here.
Stephanie's in on C.
Somebody look it up on Wikipedia. I won't judge. I'm joking. Yeah, you do suck, Anya. No, I mean, you specifically. No, you don't. I like Anya. I like
Minerva,
you, Anya.
Minerva thinks maybe the...
Okay.
I'll tell you that the photophone allows you to hear through by sending light. You could hear voices through sending light. That's what the photophone is.
I don't know. Okay, now we're getting some A's. I feel like A would be the funniest one if it was the metal detector, you know? Like, that would be kind of fun. But I'm seeing A's, I'm seeing C's.
I have reasons to think it's A, but I could be wrong here.
You know what? I'm going to go with A because I like it. It amuses me. We're going with A.
Final answer A. Correct answer is the telephone. No
question
here.
I'm turning in my PhD. That's
sometimes,
it.
sometimes.
We're
What
all
did doctors
done.
say? What did doctors say?
Painful.
Sometimes the most obvious answer is the answer.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what? I'm glad. I wasn't sure if that was going to be an easy or hard quiz. I wasn't sure.
I didn't
but-
like that. I did not enjoy that.
I almost fell for the, because of the whole thing with Garfield and the trying to find the bullet thing. I totally went, yeah.
So now
So
you know on February 14th, you don't have to celebrate love. You could celebrate the telephone. You could phone a friend. You could celebrate the League of Women Voters and
There
get
you go.
involved in something.
I mean, you could watch a YouTube video about the League of Women Voters on your phone. I
Hey.
mean,
Yeah.
and just celebrate everything. Yeah.
There was
Also-
one more. The actual the featured event on the website I went to for all these was the day that the Ayatollah of Iran put out the fatwa on Salman Rushdie.
That's
Which I
too
thought
depressing. I'm
It was a little
sorry.
heavy. It was a
I
little
get
bit
that we're
heavy
doing
for the
on Valentine's Day, but there's a line.
But
you
they
know?
consider
There's-
that the featured
a line.
event. Yeah.
I'm just shameful. Like this is
embarrassing.
embarrassing.
Was.
Take my degree away. It's over.
You know what's great? They can't. I found
No,
that
they're gonna watch this and take and like refuse to give me tenure. My president's gonna be like, she couldn't get these 3 questions
Well,
right.
You know what? I left academia.
Not a
That's
historian.
I actually had somebody say, I run an academic journal, but I'm not in academia. And someone said, I'm going to talk to your chair. And I was like, the one I'm sitting on, it's the only one I've got.
Nice.
Uh,
Nice.
I'm sorry, Amanda. I see Amanda's comment. Yeah, it wasn't. I turned out to be a hard quiz, I guess.
Yeah, Davey. Oh
Uh,
man, that was
The
pretty
good news
fun.
is that's the fun of trivia, right? It keeps you on your toes, even when you
Hey,
feel
that
like an
is
expert.
not the fun of
It
trivia.
humbles you.
No,
I feel
no.
like we need to give away more chocolate just to make that okay. So all right.
I think I need chocolate. Like, where is my emergency chocolate now?
I really should start sending chocolate to the guests, right?
I mean, I have like 5 bags of Valentine's chocolate in the other room. I'm fine. I'm stocked. Don't worry. We're good.
So last person out of my hat here. So today Sharon Roney won a pin for the drinks. Lexi also won a pin. Kathleen Richardson got some chocolate. Carol Cook got some chocolate, and Catherine Catherine, sorry.
Now you're gonna have to say that 5 times fast.
I know. You know what? For the number of times my last name has been pronounced shoelace. So thank you all. You all get chocolate. I will be shipping those out tomorrow, and you'll get them soon. So, right. Hurrah. I also bought one of these for, because I had to test it. So these are really good ones. I just want you to know. I also bought another. Sometimes I feel like I need to test them more than once. I may have bought several testing samples.
Some people wait till the samples go on clearance on the day after Valentine's Day, and then they load up on their chocolate.
That was actually my parting word to my students today in class. I was like, make sure you wait until after Valentine's Day to buy chocolate. And that was my big advice for the day. I was pretty proud of myself. I thought,
I just want to say partly, for me, when Valentine's Day comes around, I always hated that as a holiday because I was like, I feel like I'm being played. So I thought of murder frequently, and so that's why the organ of murder just made so much sense, I think, as our topic today. And yet, honestly, most of the murdering seemed to happen not to the criminals, happen to the criminals more so than the criminals doing.
Well, and I'll say this is also the week that is the 1-year anniversary of the book's publication. So for me, if you want to celebrate something else this Valentine's, you can celebrate the 1-year anniversary of An Organ of Murder. And so I'll take it.
I have some fun advice, and if you have any last questions, Leanne says, apologies if I participated too much. It was those 3 cups of coffee. It's never too much. It's never too much. Lexi says, happy anniversary for book anniversary. And it has been ordered. And many of you, you can order them both from Loganberry if you're in the United States and from Fox Lane Books if you're in the UK. And they have signatures on them because Courtney kindly sent us signatures.
They have little skulls drawn on them.
They do have.
If that's a selling point, I had a lot of fun.
I have a couple of announcements. If you have last questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat now while I'm giving my announcements, and then we can ask them. And then we'll be ending our set today with, you might have noticed, I've gotten a little bit involved with clay. Yes. So we'll be showing that little featurette, but there will be more. There will be small clay Davies in the future, and small clay me's. It's going to be ridiculous. But some announcements. So one thing is that, again, Charming Disaster, don't forget that concert is coming up. Those of you who are subscribers, you're already taken care of. I'll be sending you the link. If you're not a subscriber, please go ahead and sign up while we still have the discounted rate. And I also want to tell you that I found out I do have some more t-shirt sizes. Some of you were trying to buy t-shirts and I was out of sizes. I got some more in. Please go look at the site. If you don't see a size you want, you can contact me and I'll let you know if it's coming in the new order. I'm about to run a sale on the mugs. Davey has a mug. I think it's on his back shelf there. Yes. Right there. Bring it closer. Can you bring it closer without unplugging yourself?
Maybe.
We'll find out how good it's like limbo. Thank you. So there's going to be a sale. There's blue ones, yellow ones, and black ones. And those are going to go on sale next week. So be looking for that. Some of you already have them. Maybe you want a second one. Maybe you want them for friends. So those will be going on sale. The other February event we're doing is The Wedge by Scott Carney. It is a really interesting book about the body and its relationship to our environment that we live in. And it's got some weird, I spent a lot of time like sitting in a corner going, whoa. So I really think that you guys are going to enjoy that. Don't forget about that event. Please do come back for that one. I think that's all my announcements. Are there other questions? What do we have?
No, they're all excited. Some people have ordered the book.
Have their tickets.
Got their tickets for the upcoming shows. So yeah.
Good. Downloaded the audiobook. Great. I'm actually listening to the audiobook for Scott Carney. I will warn you, do not run on the treadmill while listening to the audiobook with Scott Carney, because like then when you have a moment you're like, what? You fall off the back. I fell off the back a lot with Mary Roach's book. And I fell off the back.
I think we need to get you some safety rails for that treadmill. I think that might be more
far to go.
At least a mattress behind you.
Actually, Leanne asked, how did you hear about the book club? And I think partly, I think I may have headhunted. Did I headhunt you?
You know what? We're mutuals on Twitter. I'm very online. I'm terrible. I tweet way too much. But so part of it is we follow each other. So I remember seeing the first tweets when you were even just thinking about Peculiar. And I think I like immediately sent you a message and I was like, I want in. And you were like, the first season's already booked. Do you want to be in the second season? I was like, yes. The sooner the better. So I was super excited about that. And I also had an article in Brandy's journal that she edits. So I feel like which is partially why I felt comfortable like bothering you on Twitter. I was like, she has received emails from me. So that's okay. And also, I just, I do a lot of, if any of you out there work at libraries or museums or you teach, I'm always happy to come and give talks about phrenology or my new project, which is all about sort of how doctors feel about their patients in the 19th century. And I'm very online. If you follow my Twitter, you will find sometimes I will tweet real things about like my book and stuff. Mostly I tweet about my dog and who is a beagle, the most spoiled beagle on earth. Her name is Winnie. And right now she's very into sweaters. So if that's the thing you're into, come to my Twitter and you can witness a dog who likes sweaters. So.
And we will say for our podcast listeners, it's at Dr.C_Thompson.
Yes. That's me. And I'll also plug just real quick because it's up on the screen. One of the side projects I run is a conference series called Archival Kismet. And you can visit us at archivalkismet.org. And Kismet is an all online, twice yearly, super informal, history-ish conference series that's free. It's available to anybody who wants to join. And basically the concept when we came up with is, why can't we just talk about cool stuff like history, show, and tell? So it's an unconference conference, and it's open to all sorts of folks who want to present, but also anyone who wants to join. You don't have to be a historian. You don't have to be a professor. It's a lot of fun. And again, it is free. And Anya, who commented, has presented and participated. It's totally free to participate in. We already have our people who are going to be presenting this spring, and there will be a call out for people in the fall. But much like I think the spirit of Peculiar, we try to be very unconferencey and
Right.
keep things fun. So if you like learning about weird stuff in history and hearing a bunch of history nerds go on about cool shit they found in the archives, then that's the place to be. And it's all free. So
Our
come join us.
folklore, we have
We
we're
love
all-
a good folklores. And if you check out the website, you can get a sense about, I mean, this spring we have everything on the docket. From somebody's gonna be talking about dildos, and we've got fossils, and we've got a lot of death.
Those confused.
So there's just a lot there, really. Like everything's gonna be there. So do join us. We like peculiar people within Kismet.
And
as well.
Indeed, very peculiar, and a tour guide. So we're all good there. We have good peoples. This is fun members of the history teacher conference.
Yeah, so this is like the fun version, and again, it's just archivalkismet.org. But there's also links to it. We have a Twitter that's just Archival Kismet on Twitter, and it's all linked to through there. So please come and join us.
You have a rich mine here of folks who are likely to be very interested.
And I will say that the way that the chat works here is basically, that's what we encourage at Kismet. We encourage people to post their reactions and their thoughts, and to make jokes, and to post dog pictures and stuff. We're very informal, and we embrace that. It's the anti-conference conference. So come join us.
We are the anti-Valentine's Day party.
Love it.
Very nice. And most of what we do, I have to say, the Peculiars are very well informed about the usual daily duties of my cat.
Very important.
Sort of unofficial spokescat for the Peculiar Book Club. Actually features in our final video that we're about to show you, which is like 4 seconds that took 4 hours. So. Though it is, as always, a lot of fun to have everybody online. We're going to end with this video, and then we're going to come back just to say goodbye. So anybody else that has last things to add, or comments or questions, please do. But first, Bart meets our squid friend Julius. So yes, that's the thing we do now.
I love that.
Thank you.
Oh man, can you make a phrenology room next?
Actually, so what I have down, so those are, there's a lot of, actually, Davey, if you can pick up some of the comments and toss them in. What I've done is I've created different rooms. So there is an anatomy room that has a phrenology head on the wall, actually. There is a fossil room with Mary Anning. There's Zenny's astronomy room. There is an experiment room that has like a bunch of coils and wires and weird stuff going on. And then there's a poisons, potions, and honey room on the bottom floor, as well as Davey's recording studio and the writing room. And I think that's everything.
That's amazing.
So,
you have to know how fun it is to be Brandy's partner in this. When all of a sudden, like it'll be like the middle that it'll be like, I'm doing the claymation now.
I mean, I have to be honest.
Okay,
like
I'm trying to keep up.
I'm thinking, like, what am I doing with my free time? Like watching Futurama? I mean, I should be making stop motion videos.
There is, in fact, a Tesla. That's what it is. It's a Tesla coil.
That's wonderful. I'm so jealous. I need a new hobby, apparently. Gosh. Okay.
I didn't mean to pick up a new hobby. It just keeps happening. Like it just happens. I don't know.
I think that's called pandemic.
I don't know. I have a tendency to be this way a little bit anyway. But yeah, I decided that we needed claymation in our lives, and also that there's not a physical studio. We want to meet our peculiars so badly. Like we really would love to do an actual physical thing, but it's very difficult to do. So what I've done is I built us a clubhouse. So it's our peculiar clubhouse. It's just very small, and there will be. I actually have a small Davey now as well, which is really funny. And I have a small me, and there's a small thing. There's a small lady paws as well that I've been putting together. And I was actually working on clay heads this morning instead of like writing my book review that I'm supposed to be writing.
I mean, as a book review editor, I'm going to tell you that's a better use of your time, probably. Make the clay heads.
The Wall Street Journal might disagree.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
You know.
Yes.
We all have priorities.
Yeah. So I knew my priorities are like create book club clubhouse. That's a, with Bart in it, because you all love Bart, of course.
I feel like Bart is the mascot of the claymation house. Definitely.
He is. Yeah. He also gets into it. He wants to be in the clay at all times. It's very difficult. Like I'm literally making clay around Bart, who's like, "What's that? Is it me?" It looks like so.
It adds authenticity because like little bits of fur get in there, and
that is the truth. I was trying to bake clay, and I'm literally it has. So anyway, this has been so much fun to have you on. It's been so much fun to have all of you here, and I'm gonna be sending out chocolate, and I hope you're drinking lots of wine, and I hope all of you had a wonderful on Valentine's Day event, and I hope you'll come back for the 17th as well. Once again, mwah, if you're weird, you're family.
You got the blue bottle blues when you wake up in the night. Don't make a big mistake, 'cause you can never make it right. When you reach out for the vial, feel the ridges in the glass. It's a matter of survival, baby, better watch your back. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no antidote. There is no